It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Dialogues with Dan, heard on Rockland World Radio every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to check out the archives of past programs located off the menu bar. Now the host of Dialogues with Dan, Mr. Dan Windheim.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. This is Dan, and tonight I have a live interview with two excellent guests. Lucky to be joined by Kim Cross, and Kim Cross is the executive director of the Nyack Center right here in Nyack, New York, and Kim is joined by office manager Nicole. I'm not sure of Nicole's last name.
Hines.
Hines. Well, welcome, Kim and Nicole.
Thank you.
Yes, it's great to have live guests on this Tuesday. And can we start the interview by Kim telling us a little about your background and how you became director or executive director of Nyack Center?
Well, I had worked in nonprofits for a long time. I had mostly worked with women who had been on public assistance and had been home with their children and then were looking for education or training so they could go back into the workforce. And I worked for the National Organization for Women for a couple of years in a training program they had. And I also worked for another agency in New York City. And then once I was home with my son, I was involved in a lot of nonprofits locally and wound up doing some consulting work. And those things led to me getting the opportunity to apply for the job as the executive director at Nyack Center.
Excellent.
Yeah, when I was ready to go back to work once my kids were a little older and everyone was in school.
Yes. Did you grow up in the area or Nyack?
Nope. I actually was an Army brat for the beginning of my life. And our last place my dad was stationed was West Point, and he was going to have to go back to Vietnam and decided that he didn't want to do that, so he retired, and we moved upstate to a town called Cazenovia, New York.
I see. So growing up, as you put it, an Army brat, was that a difficult experience moving around, or were you able to meet a great wealth of different type people and
it was pretty great for me. It was a lot harder on my mom. Their claim to fame was in 13 years they moved 14 times, and I didn't move all of those times, but I certainly moved a lot of those times. And but the thing for me was that we were living on military bases, so everybody was moving. So it wasn't like the experience I had when my dad finally retired and we lived upstate, where we were living in a small town where everyone knew each other, and their parents had gone to school there, their grandparents had lived there. When we were in the military, when we were in the Army, everybody was moving. So you weren't the new kid. Like, everybody was a new kid.
Sure.
So, you learned to make friends easily, and, it was great. We loved it.
Yes, you must have had a great experiences with people. I mean, your job at the Nyack Center, maybe you could speak about what goes on there and the people you work with.
Sure.
The children and clients, or do you call them clients, or what do you call them?
Well, they're people who participate in our programs, and we have a whole variety of different programs that we offer the community. Nyack Center was started about 24 years ago, and it was started by a group of volunteers that had been looking for a place to have meaningful activities and safe and supervised activities for young people in the community. And it just so happened that the congregation had really dwindled at the Presbyterian Church here in town. And so there was a synergy between the group that was looking for a spot and the Hudson Presbytery looking for a use for the historic building that we're in. And that's how Nyack Center was developed. And at this point in time, we run a program for kids before school. And we have 44 kids in that program. We have 87 kids in the afternoon, after school, in our after school program. We have a computer lab that goes from 5:30 to 8:30, Monday through Friday. And we have anywhere from 12 to 40 kids that come to that program. We're the out-of-school suspension site for Nyack Public Schools. So we have kids who are suspended from the middle school and the high school come to Nyack Center during the day. We're also the satellite site for WIC, Women, Infants and Children. And we have various classes and workshops and programs. We also have been running Camp Nyack for the village of Nyack for the last 5 years. And we have a program called Backdoor, which is a student-run alternative to the alcohol and drugs that kids do on Friday nights. It's a performance venue. So we have a whole bunch of different things that happen there. And actually just this year, we were host to the indoor farmers market, which developed as an outreach from the outdoor farmers market. And so in November, they came to Nyack Center and we housed them for the winter.
Oh, very good. And did you say what year Nyack Center began?
Nyack Center began about 24 years ago.
Yes. And you started what year?
I'm in my 11th year at Nyack Center.
That's great. Yeah, and could you give the contact info, the website?
Oh, sure. Nyack Center is on Facebook as the Nyack Center. We have a website, nyackcenter.org. So like us on Facebook or go to our website. We also have a Twitter account. You can follow us on Twitter. You can call Nyack Center 358-2600 and find out all that's going on at Nyack Center.
Yes. Do you partner with organizations, maybe other centers in other areas?
We have over 40 different community collaborations.
Yes.
Nyack Center is the host for the Nyack Youth Collaborative, which has over 40 member organizations, and it's all organizations that serve young people in Nyack. Some of them are Rockland organizations like the Department of Health or the Youth Bureau, and some of them are just organizations that are specific to Nyack. YMCA, Nyack Public Schools, the Family Resource Centers. But yes, we partner with a lot of different community organizations. It's one of the ways that we can do things cost effectively.
Sure. And do you each switch or share, services, or even maybe children, during the summer? Do you maybe share a child from another area who comes to this area and takes part in the Nyack camp, or do you send people to other camps?
Well, Nyack Center itself is open to anybody in the community. Our breakfast club and after school are specific to the Nyack Public Schools, as our Camp Nyack is as well. There's one fee that Nyack campers pay, and then there's a different fee that outside of Nyack campers pay. And that's because the Village of Nyack is the main contributor. They're the ones who contract with us to run Camp Nyack.
Yes.
But we have lots of different collaborations, like with Candle is an organization here in Rockland, and they provide free counseling on Monday nights at Nyack Center for any young people in the community. And we just give them the space, and then they offer their services for the young people that we serve. So there are lots of different collaborations like that we have with other organizations. And the program I had talked about before, Project Connect, which is the out-of-school suspension program, that's a collaboration with Nyack Public Schools. So Nyack Public Schools lets us use space for camp pro bono, and we let them use our computer lab pro bono.
So it's like a cooperative.
Yeah, it's a collaborative
Yes.
relationship.
Yes, I'm wondering, is the Nyack Center, as far as funding, to like the children that go there, or even adults, do they get like certain funding, like through the state or the federal government? Is there monies?
Nyack Center is different from how a lot of community centers run. Nyack Center is not a municipal community center, it's its own nonprofit. And so we get money, a contribution from the Village of Nyack. They're our largest contributor of any of our government grants. But because we're our own nonprofit, we have an ability to fundraise in a way that a village couldn't. So if you go, say, to Havistraw, their community center is a municipal entity. So Nyack Center is a nonprofit, so we have fundraising events. We're able to get grants from all sorts of different places as a way of paying for our programs. Now our before and after school programs are the lowest cost programs of their kind in Rockland County. And so part of our mission is to serve those in the community who have less. And we're serving, working parents who, for the most part are at or below the federal income guidelines for poverty. And Nyack Center is really the only, licensed program that they can afford to send their children to so they can work.
Yes. Do you have any fundraisers or money, as you spoke about, fundraisers?
Yes.
Like planned maybe this summer or coming up?
We certainly do, Dan.
Maybe
I'm glad that you
could share
asked.
that.
Yeah. Because of the way that the economy has been, there have been a lot of cuts across the board. So we do get county money, but we get less than we did, say, when I first started at Nyack Center. And so we are doing sometimes one, sometimes two fundraisers a month in order to pick up the slack. And we're very lucky to live in such a generous community that does that so that we can continue to run our programs without having to make cuts. Our next event is June 1st, and it's a program called Works in Progress. It's a concert series, and that is June 1st at 8 o'clock. General admission is $25. And it started last fall. We had Anna De La Paz and Heather Cornell, who are two dancers. Anna does flamenco and Heather does tap. And they were working on a project together, and so they did a performance at Nyack Center, a benefit for us as a work in progress. And the piece now has gotten some funding, and they took it to Canada, and they're going to be doing a program that's going to be throughout Nyack in July called Walk to the Beat. And so this concert that we have June 1st is going to be featuring John and Vicki Forster, who you may have heard of, Allison Goggins, Ian Russell, Brian Babcock, Leslie Perzel-Belanarich, and the new dance studio in town is going to also be doing a dance piece, Dance with Passion. So that's on June 1st. And then on June 9th, right after Gay Pride Rockland, is from 5 to 7 is our 12th annual Men Cooking for Nyack Center. And we have different men from the community who come and cook. Usually there's anywhere from 60 to 70 different guys serving their food. And
that's a switch.
Yeah, that's great. It's a really delicious, fabulous event. And this year we have Vincent Cuccia from Strawberry Place and pastry chef Didier Dumas from Patisserie Didier Dumas, who will be our celebrity chefs. And both of them have donated to a small auction that we're going to be having. And the auction items are Brunch for 20 in Your Own Home by Strawberry Place. Make your own crepe party with Didier Dumas. That'll be for 6 people at his place. And the chef at Wasabi has donated sushi lessons and sake at Wasabi. So we're really excited about that. That's a new component. And we're very grateful to Donna Cox and Greenbush Construction, who are our corporate sponsors for that event.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've been having fundraisers and you've been pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
You've had, the community is very generous and
very much so.
Yeah, excellent. And Nicole, I know you've been very instrumental in the center for a number of years. How long have you been there?
Going in my 9th year.
Yes. Yes, maybe you could speak on some of the things you've noticed or you've been happy with.
Well, Kim has said it all, and I'm happy with it all. I'm pretty sure there is nothing else that I can say because she has mentioned it all.
Oh, excellent.
But I'm happy with it all. We have come a long way from when I started.
Great things.
And we couldn't do it without her, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, Kim, do you, and even Kim and Nicole, do you think your background in this, well, Nicole, you grew up in the area?
I was born and raised here in Nyack.
Yes, and Kim, your background, do you think that's influenced what you've put forth in the Nyack Center? That you've developed quite a rich environment.
Well, it's very much a team effort, and as generous as the community is in terms of attending fundraisers and being very supportive of the center, the community is also incredibly generous with their time and talent. So many of the events that we have are run by, community people. And, all that whole list of people who I said was performing at the Works in Progress, those are all volunteers, and those are all incredibly talented musicians and dancers who are doing that for us for free. The chefs participating in Men Cooking, they're doing that for free. We have our rowathon, which we have every year with the River Rowing Association, and they organized that for us this year. That brought in over $15,000. And so the River Rowing Association puts this whole thing together for us and volunteers and does it. So it's very much, it's a community effort. Our board is very active and works very hard on these fundraising events. They're very generous with their time and their own pocketbooks.
Yes.
And of course the team at Nyack Center. I mean, part of the reason why we've been able to make things work is because we've been able to access funds in other places. But a big part of it is that we have staff who've worked in the position for a long time, who haven't seen raises, and are there because they're dedicated to the children that we serve and what we do. And we couldn't stay open without them.
And how many are there? Staff members?
How many staff? Well, there are only 3 full-time staff. But if you include camp, I think we have something like 43.
43.
Something like 43 part-time staff, because obviously the camp staff is seasonal, as well as some of the other staff that we have that works just during the school year.
Yes. Have you thought about, well, I know there's local venues for different things, such as, well, I'll go into this in a few minutes, but do you find that people are more apt to give back, give their time, like as far as maybe athletes, like giving their time to the community, like you mentioned,
well, certainly,
the chefs.
Right, certainly all the people that I mentioned. We have over 70 people every year who volunteer at Nyack Center, whether they're, kids who are doing community service for school. We have retired teachers who work one-on-one with kids in our after-school program who might be struggling. We have students from Nyack College, St. Thomas Aquinas, Dominican College, the Summit School, all who volunteer and do different internships at Nyack Center. We also have students from Jamonio and from BOCES who volunteer at Nyack Center each once a week.
That's great.
So we have a lot of people who volunteer and give of themselves in lots of different ways.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Oh.
Yeah, Kim, do you think that kids have changed over the years? Do you notice that they're different nowadays than years ago?
Well, I think that every generation is different, and certainly our world is a lot more complicated than it was when I was a young person. But I think that the basic things that kids require and that parents and families look for, and part of why they entrust their children to us at Nyack Center, are basic things. It's about, kids being safe. It's about building relationships, having positive adult relationships. I talked a little bit about our staff and how dedicated they are, and, a lot of our staff have really special and wonderful mentoring relationships with the young people that they work with. And, I don't remember, maybe you do, having as much homework as our kids have. I remember when my kids were young and my son was first in kindergarten and he had homework. It was like crazy to me that you'd have your homework in kindergarten. I don't think I started getting homework till like maybe fourth grade,
third grade, maybe for me.
Yeah. And and kids are expected to do work on the computer, as early as 5th grade. And, a lot of the kids in our programs are not kids who have computers at home. They don't have computer access. Right. And so having that at Nyack Center is really a way for them to be successful, because if you're starting kindergarten and you don't have what everyone else has, even if it's something simple like an adult who has time to help you do your homework. Yes. We also serve a lot of families for whom English is a second language. About 24% of the families that we serve, the head of household is English is a second language for them. Yes. And so it makes it difficult, certainly as the children get older, for those parents to help kids with their homework. And if they're working a lot of the kind of hours that our parents work, they don't necessarily have time to sit with their kids and help them with homework. And that is a critical component of being able to do well in school, is to have someone help you with projects and having someone making sure your homework's done every day. And those are basic kinds of things, but I certainly think that it's there's a lot more pressure to do those things, to do well in school in a different sort of way than when I was a young person anyway.
Did you say that the Nyack Center does offer classes in English as second language?
We actually haven't, but we are going to be partnering with Hasco probably at the end of May, and we're going to be starting to run ESL classes. And that'll be, we'll be sending out a press release about that soon. We don't quite have everything nailed down as far as the days and times, but it'll be a couple days a week during the day.
That's a great thing.
And we'll be offering
Sounds
ESL.
like the Nyack Center is like a hub of the community, which is, I think, ideal. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of pressure. Do you feel it?
Well, I certainly think that there's
Nicole feels it.
I don't feel that it's pressure. I think it's a good thing. I think you're right about it being the hub. I feel anyway that it is the hub of the community.
Yes.
That we do offer a lot of things that parents and families can grab onto.
Sure.
That is well needed.
Yeah, Nicole and Kim, you know that my program, Dialogues with Dan, started as a program about disabilities and services and agencies that help. I'm wondering, does the Nyack Center have any assistance for the disabled? Or are they accessible? Or maybe special equipment?
Well, Nyack Center is accessible. You know, we have ramps and we have a small elevator so that if someone wants to come to a concert or an event at the center or the farmer's market in the winter, you know, we can certainly accommodate that. You know, as I said before, we do have students from Juanio and BOCES who come to Nyack Center as part of their work experience. And so for those young people, you know, the experiences that they're having at Nyack Center are hopefully giving them the skills that they'll need so that they can do jobs once they graduate out of those programs. And so, you know, we try to be as responsive to the community as we can, and we encourage people, and sometimes we don't even need to encourage people. People just come in and talk to us about things that they'd like to see or things that they'd like to do, and you know, if we can figure out a way to do it, we'll really try and do it. And just to go back to something you said before about pressure, you know, I think that you know, everybody's been hit by the difficulties that, you know, we all face with what's happened in the community financially and economically. And, you know, we've really, as I said before, worked very hard to make sure that we can keep our programs open and continue to serve the same number of children that we always have. But it is important to remember that the kinds of difficulties that I might experience or you might experience are, you know, night and day to some of the things that our families have to experience with, you know, economic downturn. And, you know, we have a family that we're working with right now who's a single mom. She has, you know, 3 kids. She has more than that, but 3 in the household. And, you know, she makes $17,000 a year. And she works. She works really hard. And, you know, knowing how expensive it is to live here, you know, she has a tough way to go. And those are the families that we really, you know, work very hard to make sure that we're serving, as well as all the other wonderful community and cultural and community building things that we have. You know, when the day is done, that's really, you know, who we're serving. and what we're doing.
Definitely.
So there's a lot of pressure to make sure that we continue to do that, knowing the
Yes.
hardships that people like that face.
Do you have any ideas, or maybe ideas of what could be done to maybe take care of XYZ, like financially, or maybe even physically, to help others?
Well, obviously contributing in whatever way you can is important, whether that's a financial contribution, attending an event, or even ideas that you might have to volunteer, and collaborate. I mean, to your point earlier, that's a way that we can continue to serve families when we work together. For example, People to People, who serves the hungry in Rockland County, just got a grant, and they're going to be focusing their efforts on something called the backpack program. So kids who are in our program who qualify for free and reduced lunch, which the majority of them do, will get a backpack of food that they'll be able to take home over the weekend, because obviously the free and reduced lunch program is Monday through Friday, but there's nothing for Saturday and Sunday, and so we know a lot of our kids go hungry over the weekend. And so I think she's going to be able to do this program, I think she said for 90 kids. So we're really excited about that partnership with People to People and Diane Saratori. And I think that it really is a matter of calling attention to, everybody in our community. It's easy to drive through town and see beautiful homes and forget that there are so many people in our community who are living in poverty and difficult situations.
Exactly.
And there's lots of different ways to help out, whether you're helping out in the after-school program or making a contribution or whatever it is that you do.
Yes, definitely. Yes, so I was going to ask, who is eligible for the Nyack Center?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you'll make anyone eligible.
Well, we work hard to try and make sure that we're an
Yes.
open place for everybody. It really depends on the program, like I said before. So, if, like, say, for example, the Breakfast Club is open to any young person in Nyack Public Schools, in the elementary schools. And so they come in the morning. Staff gets there at 6:30. They have breakfast, they play games, they finish up their homework, and then the buses come and take the kids to their various elementary schools. And that is part, again, of the collaboration that we have with Nyack Public Schools, that they do that for us, because not all of the kids at Nyack Center go to Upper Nyack. They need buses that take them to the other two elementary schools.
Yeah, very good. And before we end, maybe you could speak about the camp this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask, the camp is open to all children, no matter what ability. Like in years past, have you had to deny anyone, or like as far as physical abilities,
No.
or needing medication, or
No, we've been able to make accommodations that I think were acceptable to everybody, to parents and to the staff. The Camp Nyack program is for kids entering first grade through sixth grade,
yes,
and it's for predominantly for kids who live in the village of Nyack. There are a very small number of slots that are available for kids who live in South Nyack or Valley Cottage or other places, because the main contributor to that camp is the village of Nyack. And so the children who live outside of the village have to pay full freight, which is about $1,600, which is a lot of $1,600 for a 6-week camp, 5 days a week, is actually a pretty good deal comparatively. But again, because a lot of our families are at or below the federal income guidelines for poverty, it's astronomical. And so we were able to, through the generosity of different members of the community, provide scholarships for the families that were outside of the village of Nyack who couldn't afford. And then there were some who could, and then they just paid the full amount, the $1,600.
I see.
But anybody who lives in the village pays on a sliding scale based on income.
Yeah, it sounds fair.
Yeah.
Very good. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nyack is good to be. So, lastly, could you give the contact info, phone number, website, email?
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
Nyack Center's phone number is 358-2600. It's nyackcenter.org. My email is kim.cross@nyackcenter.org. And we are located at 58 Depew. We're in the heart of Nyack in a renovated Presbyterian church, which will be celebrating its 175th anniversary next year. In 2014, the building will be 175 years old. And, hopefully we'll live to stand for another 175 plus.
Yes. Well, Kim Cross and Nicole
Hines.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Dan, you gave some great info.
Thanks, Dan.
I really recommend people to get in touch with Kim and Nicole. They do some great things at the Nyack Center. Well, everyone, have a great week. Peace.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Following